Hey, what's up, everybody? So, in this video, we're going over direct variation and arithmetic sequences. And so, when we're looking at these, we're going to go over a few strategies. But what I want you to understand that this right here is going to be a proportional relationship. And these, although that they are occasionally proportional, most of the times they also have a different initial value other than zero. But we'll keep on going so that way you can see the work in place. So, all right, so here's the vocabulary. In direct variation, the relationship between two variables that could be expressed by an equation in which one variable is equal to a constant times the other, or y equals kx. Now, you notice that it is similar to y equals m times x plus b, which is slope intercept form. Now, the only difference is that with k and m, they are still the slope of the line, but with k in specific, when you look at the direct variation equation, the b or the y-intercept for k is going to be 0, 0, meaning that their b is 0. So that's why you don't see it there. But usually when you see the words y varies directly with x, you should automatically write y equals kx automatically, where k is the constant of variation. So basically, you're taking a number, multiplying times x, it'll give you your y, always. So again, k is the slope of the line, but when you look at it from a real world perspective, it's going to be the constant of variation. Again, all this means is these problems that they're going to give you are proportional, always. So, looking at our first example. First, I'm going to go ahead and get my highlighter out. Let's go with the green. Write the direct variation equation y equals kx. So, before we even do that, if the value of y varies directly with x, which function represents the relationship between x and y when y equals 24 over 5 and x equals 6? So, ideally, what I want to do first is write y equals kx here, and I also want to write it above the words varies directly. Automatically, y equals kx. Anytime you see those words, varies directly, write it down, y equals kx. So now, this one is asking for the function, so I need to find what k is. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute. They told me what y is equal to, 24 over 5, x equals 6. Nowhere in the problem does it say k. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute my values. And again, I substitute those values so that way I know what my constant of variation is. So at this point, you will need to do your inverse operations. So looking at my problem, I need to solve for k. On the same side as k is 6, and this says k times 6, so I will need to divide by 6 on both sides. Now you could go ahead and go over to Desmos to put that in, or you can work it out yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and work it out myself. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and work this out myself. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the fraction first. So 24 over 5 divided by 6 over 1. And all I did was rewrite 6 as a fraction. So this is still the same thing. I already know 6 divided by 6 gives me 1, so I don't need to worry about it. It gives me k. Now at this point, remember, if you're going to be dividing by a fraction, all you got to do is, when you're dividing, you take the reciprocal of the second fraction, which means to flip it, and then you're going to multiply. So 24 times 1 is 24. 5 times 6 gives me 30, which is equal to k. Now I'm going to simplify that, which gives me 4 over 5 is equal to k. Now that I know that, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it so that I have my solution, or rewrite so I have my equation. And to be safe, always check. So I'm just going to do a quick check. Then it's good. Now let's say you didn't know how to multiply by fractions. So the fraction was 24 divided by 5, put it in parentheses, divided by 6, which gives you 0.8, which you could leave it as a fraction or you could leave it as a decimal, but since it gave me 0.8, it's the same thing as 4 over 5, so I know I got it correct. So remember, be sure to use Desmos. All right, back to the problem. So my final equation was this right here. Good to go. All right, now we're moving on to the second type of problem. So I'm going to go ahead and read the problem first. The value of y is directly proportional to the value of x. If y equals 21 over 4 when x equals 7, what is the value of y when x equals 8? So first we're going to go ahead and figure out the equation for the direct variation equation. So doing what we did earlier, I'm going to annotate first. Again, as soon as I read these words, y varies directly with the value of x, I'm going to write y equals kx here. So step 1, y equals kx. My y is 21 divided by 4. And my x is 7. So I'm going to substitute those into my equation. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start working backwards. I know that this says k times 7, so I'm going to divide by 7 on both sides. Again, depending on how you know how to divide. So, again, 21 divided by 7 over 1 is the equivalent thing. I'm going to take the reciprocal of the fraction that I'm dividing by. Then I'm going to multiply across. 21 times 1 gives me 21. 4 times 7 gives me 28. At that point, I'm going to simplify, and that's going to give me 3 over 4, or 0.75. So I know what my k is. So since I know what my x is, I'm going to go ahead and substitute it. Y is equal to 3 times 8 gives me 24 divided by 4, which is equal to 6. And again, once you get to right here, and if you don't want to multiply, you always go to Now I'm on Desmos. So I think it was 3 divided by 4. Again, put it in parentheses because it's its own fraction, times, what was it, 8? Which gave me 6, so I know I did it correctly. All right, now we're looking at the word problems. Again, same thing, same style. You need just to make sure you're reading. Jose's baking cupcakes for the math club. The number of cupcakes Jose can bake varies directly to the number of hours. Okay, let me get my highlighter. The number of cupcakes Jose can bake varies directly to the number of hours he spends baking. If he can bake 60 cupcakes in 2 hours, how many cupcakes can he bake in 5 hours? So those are the important words for important key details that I needed to know. So again, the first thing you gotta do is go ahead and write. See the words varies directly. You should write y equals kx. Now more importantly though, number of cupcakes. These problems are always special in the way they're written because the number of cupcakes, whatever comes first, is always y, though the second thing that comes after the varies directly is always x. So if you wanted to write number of cupcakes, that's going to be y, or that's going to represent your range. Number of hours, that is your x, that is your domain. Now, that's not asking for that. We're trying to figure out this right here. So, we're going to go ahead and start off the problem. 1, y equals kx, where y is 60, because that's the number of cupcakes. X is 2, because that is the number of hours. Now I'm going to go ahead and substitute. Since k is multiplying 2, I'm going to divide by 2 because that's the inverse of multiplication. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 60 divided by 2 gives me 30, which is equal to k. So that means my equation is going to be y is equal to 30 times x. So that means this person, Jose, this dude, is making 30 cupcakes per hour. Again, that's your unit rate. That is how many cupcakes he's making per hour. So since we know that now, we could go ahead and finish it out. Step 4, which is going to be y is equal to 30 times x, and it's asking for 5 hours, so x equals 5. So that's what I'm going to substitute. That goes there, that goes there. Y is equal to 30 times 5. 30 times 5 gives me 150. So that means this dude's about to work for 5 hours and he's going to make 150 cupcakes. So my answer is 150 cupcakes. Alright guys, so now we're talking about the sequences. These are basically not going to be proportional. There is going to be a rate of change. There is going to be a slope. So these will have an m, which is similar to the k, but these do have a initial value of a number other than 0. So with that being said, there's a couple ways you could go about it. We're going to do it the way that I kind of want you to think about it. And then we're going to do it the way that you should do it. So 2 options. And we're going to do this problem twice. So, in a sequence of numbers, a sub 0, a sub 5 is equal to 8, a sub 6 is equal to 11, a sub 7 is equal to 14, a sub 8 is equal to 17, and a sub 9 is equal to 20. That was a lot. Based on this information, write the equation that can be used to find the nth term of the sequence an. So, we got this, we got that, we got that, we got that. This is important. This is important. That's important. All right, so that's a lot. That is a lot. So there's a couple ways you could do this problem. Ideally, the way you could do it is you're going to make a table. We got a sub n, and then there's a couple ways you could do this problem. First, we're going to make a table. So we're going to have n right here, and we're going to have a sub n. So the n actually represents the number of terms in that sequence. So depending on whatever the n is, that's like its place on the sequence. So typically you want to start off with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now according to the problem though, you could go ahead and read it. So they start us off with 5. So at 5 we have 8. At 6 we have 11, 14, 17, 20. And again, I'm looking at the little numbers here. These are called the subscript. So when you say it, you say a sub whatever the number is. So a sub 5, a sub 6, a sub 7. That tells you the place. But we need to first figure out the initial value, which is always going to be 0. So again, this is the initial value, which we don't know yet. But you guys are smart. You know how to make a table. So when we look at the n term, this goes up by 1. Over here, we look at the a sub n side. From 8 to 11, how much did it change? Well, it went up 3. On the left side, on the inside. 6 to 7, that's plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. Let's look at the next sides. From 11 to 14, that's plus 3. 14 to 17, that's plus 3. 17 to 20, that is plus 3. And let's say you get stuck and you don't know the numbers. Again, you could always go with the classic. Let me use a different color. You label them x1, x sub 2, and then you subtract them. Right? So 6 minus 5 gives me 1. Over here, same thing. Y sub 1, y sub 2. 11 minus 8 gives me 3. So that's how I know that it's going up by 3. But now I'm currently right here, and I want to go backwards. So if I want to go backwards, we know from here it's going 3. If I wanted to go backwards, I should subtract 3. So that means at 4, that should be 5, because from 5 to 8, that is plus 3. So it checks out. So I go back some more. So I need to subtract 3. 5 minus 3 gives me 2. I go back some more. That gives me negative 1. Go back some more. That gives me negative 4. I go back some more. That gives me negative 7. So that means my initial term, or my a sub 0, is negative 7. So I could go ahead and write my formula, and this should look familiar. A sub n is equal to m times n plus a sub 0. Man, that's a lot. I don't know if I like that. But you should know this because this is the y equals m times x plus b. So y is equal to, or a sub n is equal to. So again, the same thing. What was the rate? We noticed that this was going up by 3. It goes up by 1. So that means that's 3 divided by 1. which gives me 3. Plus my initial value. So we know the initial value is going to be the y or the an. So that's going to be plus -7 plus -7. So you notice that's the same thing. Now, if you get confused, just revert back to that. This is the correct notation, the a sub n. But if you need to, you can always go with the y. There's nothing with slope intercept. There's no reason why you can't go with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and that's one way. I'm about to erase this. All right, so now we're gonna do this the longer way, which you guys is gonna be really familiar for a lot of y'all. Again, annotating the same thing. We know that's important, that's important, that's important, that's important, that's important. So we know we're writing an equation. So what you gotta do is first, you gotta find two ordered pair. So it doesn't matter which ones you go with. Usually if you wanna make it easy, try to go for the positive numbers. If not, go with whatever you got. Sometimes you don't have any other choice. So a sub 5 is equal to 8. A sub 6 is equal to 11. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite these as coordinates. So this right here, this 5, that is your x. This is going to be your y. Same thing here. That 6 is an x. That is your y. We're going to go ahead and rewrite those. 5, 8, 6, 11. Now I'm going to label those x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Going to use the formula y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1 is equal to. Now I'm going to substitute my numbers, but first I'm going to go ahead and set up the form. Parentheses, always substitute in parentheses. 11 minus 8. X sub 2 is 6, so that's going to be 6 minus 5. You could put that in a calculator. You could do it in your head. You could do it in a smaller calculator. 11 minus 8 gives me 3. 6 minus 5 gives me 1, which simplifies to 3. So now I know my slope is 3. Again, this was step 1. What's the label? Step 2, determine the slope. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move that over for a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my slope, pick a point, doesn't matter. If you go for the positive, it's always going to be the easiest one. Now you can use either formula, it's up to you. So the correct formula is a sub n is equal to m times n plus a sub 0. Again, that looks a little scary, but it is the same formula as y is equal to m times x plus b. Again, you can choose either or. So I'm going to work them out both at the same time. An is equal to 3 times n plus a sub 0. Y is equal to 3 times x plus b. And we're trying to find a b. Pick a point. It doesn't matter what point. You're going to substitute it in. So I'm going to choose this one right here. Since it's already labeled for me, I'm going to put it in. So it's going to be 8 times 3 times 5 plus a sub 0. Over here again, same thing. Y is 8 is equal to 3 times 5 plus 0. 3 times 5 gives me 15. I'm going to go ahead and do my inverse operations. Minus 15, minus 15, minus 15, minus 15. Eight minus 15 gives me -7 is equal to a sub 0. Same thing, -7 is equal to b. Now that I know what my b is, or my a sub 0, I'll go back and rewrite it into the equation. A sub n is equal to 3n minus 7, or 3x minus 7. Either or, those are your equations right there. So, depending on which one you like, either way, this is a non-negotiable, so you definitely need to learn how to find the slope. That is what it's, you definitely need to know how to find the slope. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video. You have a good night. Or a good day. Either or.